Speaking of 2022 movies, I want to talk about Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse of Madness, which is honestly one of the most disappointing movies I've ever seen, and really just doesn't deserve to be called a Marvel movie. If you think about it, the first Doctor Strange movie was a grounded comic book story. Yeah, it involved a sorcerer. Yeah, he was a doctor, but it starts with a kind of understandable story. Stephen Strange is a dick scientist. He's brash, he doesn't care, he has money. It's fun because he's kind of like a Tony Stark type character. However, you get to see the side to him where he's in an accident and he has to overcome that. And then he's given the ability to go seek mystical powers and potions. And I know that stuff all sounds like kind of crazy fantasy, but it worked because, in Doctor Strange, the first one, it was introducing this stuff as kind of new, and to him it was insane. And, you're part of that journey. It felt like one of the classic superhero stories we've been used to. However, with Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse of Madness, it's terrible. It's highway robbery. You're basically presented with a sequel to several TV shows and movies, and you're just supposed to, accept everything. The movie basically opens with Wanda, who is a character in the Marvel Universe, and they expect you to have watched her show WandaVision, in which the first two episodes, by the way, were pretty good. I didn't have an issue with that, but then it became this convoluted story where the main character imprisons, an entire town, and because she's in grief and it's supposed to be justified, and that altogether was awful. But then this movie, Doctor Strange, opens with, a gratuitous scene. The hero is stopping a monster. It's cool. He's fighting him in this city, and you're like, wait, how did he come in from this other universe? You're not thinking that, but then that starts the movie where there are things coming in from other universes. You're like, how is this happening? This is where the movie fucks up. They introduce Wanda. She's saying that her kids are kidnapped. And you're like, wait, what kids? See, if you saw WandaVision, you know she has kids, but they don't even show that they were kidnapped until the post-credit scene. It's off screen, so how are we even supposed to know? And then on top of that, they show that Wanda's all of a sudden a villain. She's saying, if you don't get me this, America Chavez chick who can travel different universes, I'm gonna kill you. And you're just like, what? This is so much information. And you're supposed to accept that. And I hated it. It was literally then they just start showing CGI monsters coming at you and they have to defend them. This is the worst case of a superhero movie, guys. It gives you just terrible, terrible characters, terrible animation, terrible CGI, and expects you to kind of just accept it. And on top of that, it was directed by Sam Raimi, who's a really talented director, and you can tell that he did this for the money, and he's likely going to be doing Avengers Secret Wars for the money. Now, let's talk about what else made this movie awful. It's called Into the Multiverse of Madness, but we barely are in the multiverse. I mean, Everything Everywhere All at Once came out a little after this, and it was so good. It explores trauma, grief, all these themes, and on top of that, it tells a great story. It has action, it presents many different universes that have distinct styles to them. But Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse of Madness presents three situations. They give you a paint universe. I absolutely hated seeing the interviews where they're like, we got to see all these universes. There was a paint universe. I'm like, yo, they showed that for 2 fucking seconds. Then they show you a green screen New York where everything is clearly just shot on a green screen. They're like, in this universe, everything is pizza balls. And I'm like, am I supposed to be impressed? It's just a comic book story with such laziness to it. And on top of that, the villain is absolutely awful. I thought Evil Strange, such a terrible, terrible character. Who even cares that there's another universe where there's an Evil Strange when it doesn't matter because we haven't even explored any of the universes? So this movie, just also the scene where America Chavez's parents get killed, one of the most funny scenes I've ever seen that probably wasn't supposed to be funny. It was just so funny. Really, they just get murdered because she sneezes and a bee attacks them or some shit like that. Overall, I could not stand this movie. When it ended and they say oh, Charlize Theron is joining, you're like, what? Okay. But it was just very bad. So that's my opinion.